let's talk about a tool called AspectMock that makes testing in PHP a lot easier. The first thing that I need to do, though, is install it. So here, within the require dev, I'm going to install codeception/aspect-mock. And once again, we'll get the dev master branch, and then pull that in by running composer update dev. All right, that's finished. So now I can pull it in by saying use aspect-mock/test. Now I just need to do a bit of setup. For the teardown, I need to say test clean. And now we have an easy way to, in a way, intercept the instantiation of a class and still allow that to be testable. Let me show you an example. Let's say test binds post to index view. So maybe we are testing here maybe some kind of post controller. So we'll say post controller test, and I will also rename this to post controller test.php. Now we're going to make our call. This call get the home page. Next, within a split, I'm going to open up our routes file. Here's what we have from a previous lesson where we just returned view make hello. Now we need to grab the posts, and we've learned that it's best to inject those types of things, and that way they can easily be swapped out with a mock. But let's just imagine it's a small project and you haven't done that. So you want to say post equals post, and maybe we want to get something specific like recent. So we'll say post recent. Now I'm going to var dump posts. So at this point, everything's going to fail, and that's because I don't have any of that set up just yet. So I will do that quickly, and I don't expect you to follow along. I'm going to generate a model called post. I'm going to generate a migration called create post table, and set the fields to title string and body is text. And what that's basically going to do is set up this schema for a new table called posts, and then I'm going to migrate to create that post table. So now if I run PHP unit again, and we scroll to the top, we have a new error called the undefined method recent. All right, let's do that now. We need to edit app models post, and here let's add a new method called recent, but let's make that static. All right, let's run it again, PHP unit, and we do get green, and we get null because there's nothing within that post table. If I switch over to SQL Pro, let's just add one real quickly. My first post, and then we'll say lorem ipsum. That looks good. And we'll set the timestamps to now. Now we at least have one row. Now when we run recent, we could say static, and we want to take 5. We're going to get the 5 most recent. We're going to order by ID in descending order, and let's grab those. That's how we could write that in Laravel. Now if I run PHP unit, notice we're going to get that collection in return. Or if we want to quickly cast that to an array, you can see more specifically what we have, and we returned that one row. All right, but now we want to test this. So ideally, we want to say test binds post to the index view, but we don't maybe want to hit the database. Well, we can do that with AspectMock. I could say test, create a double for the post model, and when the recent method is triggered, even if it's a static method, we can test that with AspectMock. When this recent method is triggered, we're going to return just foo for now. So now remember, before when we var dumped, we got that full collection. But now simply by doing this, if I run it again, isn't this amazing? Even though we could have instantiated a class here, or in this case, we're calling a static method directly, which we sort of know to be untestable, with AspectMock, it's a non-issue. And that's because it leverages something called the Go aspect-oriented framework that allows us to do some of this without falling back to extensions like runtime, which can be difficult to install. So already this is pretty amazing. The final thing we could do is say this assert view has. This is a method that Laravel provides, and we're going to assert that it has a variable called post that's equal to foo. Let's go ahead and run it. And of course, it's going to fail because we didn't return a view. We just var dumped. So let's do that now. We're going to return view make hello, and then we're going to pass through the post variable. Now if I run it, we are back to green. So this is incredibly cool. Do not underestimate how cool this is. We are able to hijack, so to speak, this static method call that we never really thought was possible before. But now, thanks to AspectMock and the Go framework that it extends, we can accomplish that very thing. Now, the final thing I need to note is that the way Laravel is designed, you can't easily hijack some of the native methods. So for example, let's just say we did post all, and now we want to hijack that static method like so and see if that works. Well, if I run it, nope, it's not going to work. We expected this collection to be foo, but for some reason this isn't working. And that's because of the way Laravel is designed. Laravel is designed using what we call facades. So it gives us these static methods, but it's not actually defined specifically on the Eloquent model. It instead uses dynamic methods to then instantiate the necessary class. And ironically, this is what allows for testability in Laravel while still allowing for this easy syntax that we can use. However, the way aspect mock is going to work versus the way Laravel is built isn't going to allow us to mock things like all or find. But I think that's okay. Even if you're building these small projects and you want them to be testable without pulling in repositories or leveraging dependency injection, most of the time I think you're going to find that the methods you need will be custom. Very rarely, I think, will you actually want to run post all. You probably want to grab post all, order by ID in descending order, and then you want to paginate them. That's more realistic. So in those cases, just create your own methods. Maybe if you have a users and you want to return all of them who are subscribed, don't do something like user where subscribed is 1 and then get. Don't do that within your controller or this callback. That's not readable and that's not a good idea. Instead, just say users subscribed. And then when you need to test your controller and you don't want that database query to take place, you can then mock the users class and set subscribed to return foo or an object or an array of objects, anything you want to do there. All right, definitely have a play with this one. It's very cool.